Hello and welcome to Dungeoneer, the podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. Is that acceptable?
Why you always gotta be weird with it?
I don't have to be weird with it. That was just normal. I almost said hola and welcome, but then I was like, you know?
Okay. So what's your lukewarm open?
Okay, my lukewarm open for this week, I have 2.
Ooh, fancy.
We obviously only want to do one, right? Unless we want to do both.
Let's do both. Let's
want to do both?
If they're good.
Okay, well, they're a little bit different than normal lukewarm opens. So normally we're like doing an item or something like that. But this time I want to make a location and not necessarily something to do with that location, but something that could affect this location. And so I got this idea roughly, I don't know, during my prep time 5 minutes ago.
And you've been thinking about it ever since.
I have been. But one of my favorite things to listen to on YouTube, which I think you know, is like relaxing rain / like piano music. You know, it's like thunder in the background.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite things to do. It's like the main, I mean, if it counts as music, I guess it's like the main type of music that I listen to.
Does not count as music, not even sort of.
You don't think so? Not like, It's like soft piano in the background. It's like piano music with like rain.
Oh, I thought you were saying just rain. I mean,
no.
I don't
like piano.
That's hard. It's like I would say no.
It's like Your Line April soundtrack. It's like the Your Line April soundtrack, but with like rain in the background, you know? And like,
but see, that's different. Then they're two separate things. I think whatever the piano piece is music. I think whatever the rain sound is rain sound.
For sure. Absolutely. For sure. Definitely. But it gave me an idea for the lukewarm open. So these videos that I watch on YouTube it's called The Soul of Wind, I think. Anyways, highly recommend the channel. It's good. But they always have like anime pictures and stuff that just are, I don't know, for the background or whatever. But the one that I was watching today had a forest. And so I was thinking, how would you run a forest interesting in D&D? Not just like your typical forest. How would you make it interesting? Because forests are pretty easy to just be like, oh, you walk into a forest and there's a hag swamp, like I did last time. You know, like, oh, you walk into a forest and there's a overgrown ruin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want like a forest that's all mimics. Like
that's what I made. I brought that up yesterday. A mimic forest.
I think you did, yeah.
I did, 100%.
Which would be terrifying, by the way.
Oh, like, 100%.
Like a forest that's like sentient and knows you've entered its premises.
Well, so that's what I was kind of going with.
Flytrap.
I would go with the it's a real life forest. It's a part of a forest.
Wait, is there a real life forest that's mimics?
No. It's in West Virginia, I think. I think it's in West Virginia. So it's this forest, I believe it's in West Virginia, and it's all one organism. It's all one tree.
Yeah, that doesn't, I know there's a lot of,
but it's a large array of, it's like mushrooms. They're all connected underneath, and they all seem to be the same organism.
Yeah, I can't remember what that's called scientifically. I used to know.
But
it's gonna bug me.
I would have the forest be like that, but I don't know what the connection would be together, like what they would be, like if they're watching over the area, protecting it from people. I don't know what it would be doing, but
I mean, now if we wanted to take a dive back to a previous world, which if you had an idea of like maybe something like Titans roamed the earth and they died, it'd be really fun to make like a carnivorous forest that grew on top of one that's just eating the flesh of leftover Titan. That'd be kind of fun too. That'd be interesting. Like a leftover giant huge world creator monster that
and it's
died.
Getting to the point where there's no more flesh to consume on the creature, so it's going for people that enter the forest now.
Well, this
people thought it was
safe. I did make a creature which I don't think you've ever fought. Maybe you have in a one shot. I don't remember, but I've created a creature in D&D called, I think it's called a wailing willow, a wailing. I don't know. It's like a willow tree that instead of like leaves on it, it has like lights like an anglerfish. and it like charms you. And when you walk towards this tree, it like eats you essentially. It like tangles you up and tries to consume you and like kill you. One of my favorite creatures that I've made, and it can't move, but it just like charms. So it's really fun to add like in a random little encounter. People walk by and like the party walks by and they have to make a wisdom save, and all of a sudden they're like following a string of lights or something that they're like entranced by, and they get wrapped up by this big tree. But anyways, that's kind of reminds me of that. But I think a forest of like a carnivorous forest would be really interesting. That like even one that grows and knows people who've entered and knows the animals that's entered it, and like how would it kill people? Just like grab people with roots or vines or what? Do they just have mouths?
I think it does.
That'd be so creepy.
No, it grabs people's feet with its roots and drags them under the earth, where it then consumes them as it would soil.
So here's the question. Is it just like, are you just underground stuck in the soil, or does it like drop you in some sort of like holding chamber?
No, it pulls you. You're literally restrained by the ground, and it begins to, you feel it wrapping around you, its roots.
And then its roots just like suck the energy out of you?
Yep, suck the life out of you until you're dead.
Yeah, I like that idea. I also like the idea of like almost like a Venus flytrap acid pit that the roots pull you into or whatever. And you like fall into this acid pit, slowly die. That'd be terrifying too. But I do like the roots, I think, better. They like grab you and pull you underground, and you're just stuck underground as they eat your life force. That's absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a carnivorous forest like this in a D&D game? Curious how it would go over if you ran it in a party. Because I don't know how many people would be excited to go into a carnivorous forest that just like is pain.
I haven't seen my... okay. It wasn't like that. It was just more of a, this forest is very dangerous. Don't go here. I made a forest that was incredibly dangerous in my world, that it literally has these angels throughout it. And these angels...
Wait, did you say angels?
Yeah, it's
like
they're angel statues.
Devils and angels? Demons and angels?
They're angel statues. And they're all...
Okay.
They're all holding torches, and so the only way to be safe in this forest at night is you gotta go and sleep under one of these safe zones. My dog's
I love that concept.
Again.
Didn't we use that kind of concept in one of our
I think we did,
building things?
But yeah, it was based
like
off
that
a thing in
concept
my
a
world.
lot.
It's a fun thing, yeah. It's a fun little, like, it's dangerous, but you also know that there's a way through, and so people have...
You have to like plan your route to get through the forest.
Yeah, and people have like merchants and stuff have gotten to the point where they're like, okay, it's dangerous, but we'll shave off 10 days or whatever. Instead of walking around this forest, we'll just go straight through using these. And most of the time they're successful, but every once in a while they're not. There's something happens and delays their arrival at the next angel.
If we were to add these into like a carnivorous forest, like something like this, what do you think they'd be? Would they be like little huts or houses, like stone houses that the roots can't break through? What would it even be plausible? Maybe just like a magic circle?
I wouldn't want to use the same thing that we already used previously. What I would add to it to make like safe zones, quotation marks, is like, oh man, that's hard. Maybe you have to build your camp in the canopy. Like you have to build it up the tree because the roots are what gets you.
Oh, so, interesting.
So the gear that you use to sleep the night in this forest is way different than any other that you've used before, because you're literally hanging from the tree. And once you get 15 feet up is where you're safe.
You know what would be really fun too in this forest? Is if you took that idea and like made it on a grand scale, and there's like a group of, I don't want to say elves because that's like classic, but like there's a whole entire city that's like up on top of the branches, like up on top of in the canopy, that's like lived and survived, and they only travel and traverse by like jumping from branch to branch and tree to tree, because if they land on the ground, like the forest will try and consume them.
Yeah.
I think
I would make it be like Tabaxi.
Tabaxi's a really good one. Yeah, I like that. However, instead of Tabaxis, they're squirrel people. No, I can't. I can't. Another idea if you were to make it tabaxi, and this could be super weird and grotesque, but the forest consumes animals, humans, whatever, and they produce like a weird fruit that's like meat, and you like can eat it and cook it as like meat, like a meat substitute type thing. I think that'd be really interesting too.
I like the idea of a fruit, but I don't like it being meat.
I'm not saying it is meat. I'm saying it's like meat. It's like because it consumes so much meat and like it's carnivorous, it produces a fruit that's like very I don't want to say stringy, but has like there's even fruit in real life that has like a consistency of meat. Like has a weird consistency and texture that these people like harvest and jump around and gather to eat because they can't be on the ground really.
Yeah.
I would even see these people like, and this is totally, now we're way off and we're way lost in the forest now, but I can even see like these people like luring in like herds of elk or deer or something with like, I don't know, like lures or something to get them walking into the forest, or like even humans or something. I could see if they can feed the forest because they're like one with the forest or whatever. It'd be super interesting.
I think the forest doesn't eat animals. I think it only eats humanoids, and I do think these people do lure people in here, but I think they only lure humanoids in here.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it eating animals only because, like, I don't know, to me it makes sense, but at the same time, like, if it ate all the animals in the forest, there'd be nothing that lived in the forest.
Yeah, I always like the way they do zombies, how zombies kind of just ignore people. I mean, and they don't ignore people, they ignore the animals.
Yeah, I mean, I like either or, to be honest, but
yeah,
I do like the idea of like even like this entire forest would have just like tons of birds and like monkeys and things that live in trees because nothing can go on the ground, and they start like, survival of the fittest, and they start knowing that they can't be on the ground. So like there's an entire universe, an entire world in this canopy that's just like in its own ecosystem compared to the void on the ground, because anything that touches the ground gets immediately like maybe the tree roots are so shallow they can like feel each individual footstep and each individual like hit on the ground. I even see like maybe you could give yourself time by like throwing a piece of wood on the ground or whatever, and the roots just like hit the piece of wood, and you can like be on the ground for a short amount of time while it like tries and eats this piece of wood almost like a decoy, and you could like run and get what you needed really fast, like maybe a turn or two in like D&D terms before you had to get back to the tree.
I didn't see it as that dangerous. I saw it more as like one of those things that you walk through it for like a day. All of a sudden you look behind you and George isn't there.
Yeah.
Like it's more like a horror thing rather than, oh, these things are constantly attacking at us.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily. I think what I originally envisioned, it's like smart. I mean, intelligent as a plant can, as a sentient plant can be, but like it doesn't eat everything immediately, so you can like move and live into the forest. But so there would still be animals and things that live on the ground, but it just picks and chooses and takes its time. When it needs food, it will eat. But I was also thinking like maybe something has happened to it where it's become ravenous and hungry, and now like it's been consuming too much or things like that. Like
well, yes, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was saying, is that I think that the way we would do that is it would be because you said it was eating the Titan's body.
Right.
I think the Titan has finally had its flesh fully consumed to the point where this thing's looking for something new to eat.
Yep. Yep.
And so it's gotten more ravenous in the more recent years.
Yeah, no, I think that's, and I think over time it's just gets worse and worse, and now like once things hit the ground, like, I think it'd be really fun. I also love the idea of an entire ecosystem that's in the canopy, and like you can like walk through the canopy, like there's so much branches and things growing, and you can like walk through the canopy. It would be hard to see because there's so much like vegetation, and like I think it'd be a really interesting take on a new ecosystem. Instead of just like walking through the forest on the ground, you like have to be up in the branches.
And I think in the branches, they get like how the trails happen, like the kind of how they happen by just people walking constantly.
Uh-huh.
It's that same thing, but in the canopy. because that's where even the animals are all going up in the canopy.
Exactly. Yeah, like it's so cool. I think it'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Be so different. I mean, shoot, now I have to make that in the world, you know? Well, do we want to do the second one, or do we want to go on to the real topic? It was a really long one. That was longer than I expected.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was a good talk anyways.
Do you want to save the next one for next week?
Yeah, let's save it for another week.
Okay, we'll save the next one. Let's go on to the actual topic now. After all, it's already been 17 minutes.
Yep. So, this week we're going to be talking about the deity that I actually mentioned that I researched last week, Ilmater.
Ooh.
Which I believe it's supposed to be pronounced Ilmater. Because
not like Sick Mater, the truck from Cars.
It's like Toe Mater, but without the toe.
Yep.
But we're not just going to talk about Ilmater. We're going to talk about their church as well.
Wait, how's it spelled? Is it like sick, I-L-L?
Nope, Ilmater.
Got it.
And the pronunciation was Ilmater, but that just sounds weird to me, and it's hard. Yeah, I don't know.
Ilmater.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good to say. I don't know. But so Ilmater was one of the gods I researched for the previous episode, but I changed my mind in the end. Ilmater is a unique god of the Forgotten Realms, and I was curious to see what we could build off of them. As I said, Ilmater is a unique god. His titles are the Crying God, the Broken God, the Lord on the Rack, and the One Who Endures. He gained these titles because of his domain, which are endurance, martyrdom, perseverance, and suffering.
Oh, gosh.
His goals were to be the eternal foe of suffering. He wished to aid those who were suffering with physical needs or relief, but also... Sorry, this is horrible English here in my writing. I have ADD, and I get to a point where I'm writing and I can't write fast enough for how fast my mind's saying these things, and so I'm like,
I relate to that,
and it just kind of looks like it fell apart at this point.
I'm also incredibly dyslexic, so I often switch words, and even when I'm reading, I have a really hard time because I'll switch words and I'll be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be saying right now because I'm seeing something that's not actually written on the paper. It happens to me so much.
Yeah, so he wished to aid those who were suffering and to give them relief. But also... okay.
Oof.
Yeah, so he also would give them relief with words of encouragement to comfort those in pain or who were oppressed.
Question.
Yes.
So if he's the god, you said he wanted to end suffering?
Yes.
Or only aid people who are suffering?
He would both.
He
will go out of his way to
suffering?
No, he does not cause suffering. He will kill those who do cause suffering and will take on the pain of those who suffer and take it on himself instead.
Got it. So do you know if he encourages suffering or discourages suffering?
So in his we'll get into all of this.
Does he want his church
sees
to suffer?
No, he does not want his church to suffer, but he does say that he does believe that the holy people will take on the suffering of others. So in a way, he's encouraging suffering, but he doesn't want people to suffer.
That's an interesting take. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah. He encouraged and taught his followers to follow his example and seek to halt or at least relieve suffering from others, even if it was at the expense of making them suffer instead.
Got it.
Anything to lessen the pain of others. Ilmater has at times gotten so enraged by suffering that for a time he would forsake his pacifism if inflicting pain and suffering would ultimately lower the pain and suffering in the world.
Oh boy.
Now, all the deities in the Forgotten Realms can manifest themselves in physical form.
Do we know how many deities are in the Forgotten Realms? Is it just an uncomprehendable amount?
There's a lot. Because there's multiple pantheons, and the pantheons are for different parts of the Forgotten Realms. And so, and the Forgotten Realms is such as it was originally created by, oh gosh, now I feel terrible that I'm blanking this name.
Gary Gygax.
No, I look at his Twitter all the time. Ed Greenwood.
Ed Greenwood.
Ed Greenwood. He's fantastic. Ed Greenwood. You can literally tweet Ed Greenwood and be like, "Hey Ed, how does this work in the Forgotten Realms?" And he'll be like, "Oh, this is how," and he'll like give you this long retweet of like, "This is everything. This is all of the info you're looking for."
I love that.
But so he sold it to Wizards of the Coast, to the Dungeons and Dragons, which I think he sold it to them before it was Wizards of the Coast, and they began to build their world in it. And as they did that, they have sold the property and the use of it to other book writers. So occasionally a book writer will just be writing a book and be like, this character follows this god, and just creates a new god in the world. So there is a bunch from all these different writers from all different time periods.
It's literally it's canon now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Adapt to the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely go through like an approval process or something, like, hey, I want to add this. Is that okay? But yes, there is a lot because of that. Now, as I was saying, Ilmater has a physical form, an avatar, just like every other deity in the Forgotten Realms. And it is the appearance of it is dictated by the personality and domain of whoever is manifesting this avatar. Considering the domain of Ilmater, it is no surprise that his form is, well, let me just read the description from the Forgotten Realms wiki. In avatar form, Ilmater appeared as a short man with a burly build and wearing only breechcloth, with a plain but kind and comforting face, balding head, and a hairy body. But this body bore the marks of mutilation and torture on the rack, covered with open cuts, closed scars, burns, and a range of other wounds. Ilmater's joints were broken, his limbs were ravaged, and his hands were smashed, yet still functional. Moving caused him a great deal of pain as he dragged himself around. No matter how much his avatar healed, it still showed these terrible wounds. What a form for a god.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a happy dude, He's short because it's suffering. He's
wow, that's rude to anybody who's short. I'm sorry.
I'm short, and I love being short. This is just a joke. I can make that joke because I'm short and I like being short.
I don't know. I think we're gonna have to get a judge on that one, Aaron.
The top shelf. Yeah,
we're gonna have to get a judge. Can we include this, or is Aaron canceled? It's
too late now. It's too late now.
Here, I'm going to post in Discord, because the image that they have for Ilmater's avatar form is honestly fantastic. And if you're curious what he looks like, I would suggest looking at it, because it's a sight to behold, my friend.
Oh, gosh, I was not expecting this at all.
Yeah, it's lacerated. His arms are broken. They're literally like in weird positions. He's bleeding.
He's really messed up. I thought he was just some like happy short guy with like, a few cuts and bruises here and there. But no, he's like really...
Yeah, he's really damaged. His avatar form is damaged severely and even in pain itself, but it is still very powerful. This avatar fights with his fists like a monk, using martial arts. Normally, as I said, it chooses pacifism, and if it is attacked, it doesn't need to save others. It prefers to just take the damage. So it'll literally just sit there like a punching bag if it doesn't need to take care of the other people.
Yikes. How would you feel if you're just beating on some guy and he will never die, but he just continuously
He just stands there and watches. Now, if he did hit you, his fists count as +5 keen, lawful, vorpal weapons.
What?
This means that it has a +5 magic to hit on top of whatever his plus to hit is. It deals critical hits on more than just a 20. And not only that, but when it does crit, it knocks the head off what it crit.
He's literally One Punch Man, but suffering version.
Yeah. Now, Ilmater has an interesting church because of their ideals and the way that they dedicate themselves to healing and supporting the sick and needy. because of their beliefs, it has kind of turned off a lot of upper class and super affluent people. But the lower class and those who suffer and are in pain love them and took to them like flies.
Heck yeah. Peasants
church-
unite, baby.
The church has quickly spread throughout all of Faerun and become the widest and largest faith in all of Faerun. This church believed that life was sacred and to suffer was holy. This extended into taking on the burdens of others, being what the holiest of people would do. They believed that through this suffering, Ilmater would support them through it. To outsiders, they seemed reckless and foolish, but they wished only for the betterment of everyone. Now, this idea of...
what a wholesome church.
Yeah, it is. Now, this idea of Ilmater supporting them isn't wrong, because he has been known to occasionally possess a good and innocent creature that was being tortured. He grants them great power, and in a powerful display would shatter any restraining and torture devices hurting them. Their wounds would regenerate almost immediately, and all pain was relieved. And if the situation was dire enough, he would even grant them strong destructive magic as well to deal with their captors.
Wow.
Now, people love to take things to extremes, and members of this church called the Ilmatari are no different. There are a lot of good groups inside the Ilmatari, but there's a lot of skewed ones as well. There was the Companions of the Noble Heart, a highly aggressive group with its goals being the destruction of cruelty and those who make others suffer. They particularly hate another church. Similarly are the Weeping Friars, a fanatical group that believes in the idea of bleeding for others. Finally, there
bleeding for others.
Bleeding for others. Finally, there is a heretical group that believes kind of the opposite. They wish to share suffering, making others holy too, as they see it.
Yeah, that's the first one I thought of. Is like,
yeah, they're called
people's.
Yeah, they're called the Cult of Shared Suffering, and they are pretty much the opposite of what the god actually believes. Now, that is what I have this week for Ilmater and his church. And I was thinking we could create some sort of fun, interesting, unique kind of god or church system.
Okay. Have any thoughts? Any interesting thoughts?
Not really. I was hoping I wanted to see what you could think of first.
Okay. Well, what do we want to do? Do we want to make a god who created stuff? Do we want to make a random rando god? Do we want to just make a church that doesn't believe in a god but is a church anyways? And they believe things off of ideals? Do we want to... I don't know.
Okay. You mentioned something there, and it kind of got my mind thinking. I think it would be interesting to start with a church, and this church like purely believes in like supporting and like helping people, and they become such an influential force that instead of them falling under a god, gods like choose to be like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of this.
Ooh, interesting. Like a reversal.
Yeah, and so they are doing such good that God's like, oh, I want to be in support of this. And so they kind of gain these gods as fellow church members. And so they do kind of worship them, but it didn't start that way.
Okay, that's a really interesting idea.
So they don't really follow them.
What are the ideals that this
they're
church...
not ruled by them.
Yeah, what are the ideals of this church then?
I think it's gonna be totally blanking on the word. It's similar to what Ilmater's is, where you give up stuff of yourself to help others. Servanthood, like serving other people,
like servitude, or
not? Yeah, I always hate that word because it always feels more like slavery. The word servitude just sounds bad to me. But yeah, like that kind of like inconveniencing yourself for others. And I think that I don't think this church is like Ilmater's. I don't think they're pacifist in any way. So I think a major part of them is also they have a standing army as well.
Okay. I'm thinking in terms of like having a standing army. I think I want to do something a little bit different, and and this might sound a little bit corny, but what if we did like, yes, this army is like a fighting force as well, but what if we did something like a Salvation Army or something too, where they're like, they actively travel and are like actively trying to, maybe even for the detriment of some places. Maybe it's not always what the area or place wants, but like maybe like I could even see these people like accidentally like changing a culture that isn't part of whatever their religion is or anything like that, or their like church is. So I kind of like the idea of, yes, a fighting force. I think it would be an interesting take. Would this, if they,
I like the idea of a
now it's another
Salvation Army.
question.
I like that. How it's like there
Like
are fighting members of it, and it is a military force, but there is the more major goal is aid.
Right, like a humanitarian aid.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Instead of like an actual military. So then my question is, so their motives, so are we having it they don't like serve or worship very many gods? Or because there's a part of me that wants it to be like a few of the gods now serve their church. They're kind of like almost like mascots. I mean, I don't want to say mascots, but you get what I'm meaning. Like,
oh, that's exactly how I saw it. I saw it as this group doesn't really worship, like you can be a member of this group and you don't have to worship one of the gods that it is associated with, but it is associated with a few gods because their churches have said like, we give support, and like maybe it's a monetary, maybe some of them give them clerics and paladins and things, but like they have these relationships with these other gods and their groups.
yeah, I mean, that would make sense to me. Even like a, like, I don't want to say collaboration, but they like maybe even like worked with other churches to help, aid communities and places like that.
Yeah.
So then my question is,
I think as you were saying about their errors,
yeah,
I did want to talk about that.
For sure.
I think it's like a Native American situation.
That's what I was thinking
White
as well.
Christian settlers coming in and like, oh, we're gonna teach these people, but
And
they
we
do
don't
it in
want
just
what
the
you're offering.
worst way possible. Yeah, they don't want what you're teaching, and
Yeah,
so
that was
they
my
kind of
first
like
thought
try
as
to.
well.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm not doing that, but I think the idea of having that in our world, it's a very human thing to have happen.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like you,
where they think, I know better than you, I can teach you.
So then,
And
okay,
it's not
let's
even
flesh
like-
this out a little bit then.
Yeah.
Let's flesh this out a little bit. What are the ideals of this church, and then what are the ideals of the place they I don't want to say invade, but they try and convert / change / culturally,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, culturally change.
Well, how close do we want it to be to like actually like Native American culture and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, I love the classic, we already have that island. I love the classic, like, making your way over to a different continent and our ways are better than your ways, and there's immediately a problem.
Yeah, I'm meaning like, do we have like shamanism and the great spirits and like that type of a religion that the people they try to convert have?
Yeah, like an animism even, maybe? Like a...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they believe everything has a spirit and everything,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just vastly different than the...
Yeah, then the very like, oh, we worship this god. He tells us what to do.
I like it a lot. Is there another route we could go? Just brainstorming? I still like the traditional, Native American, animism or, stuff like that. But is there another route we could go? Is there a different route that you could see working?
Okay, I kind of want it to be a misunderstood god. I want it to be where they're from, this god has a very different, like, the perception of him is very different, or her is very different over in their world versus in this one.
Okay, interesting.
So I don't know what their beliefs are, or their like domains are, but I think they are like this helper deity that the people worship and whatnot on this continent or whatever. But I think over there, the three gods or whatever, however many gods actually are associated with this church, actively dislike this god for some reason. And I think they have put this propaganda out there that this god is terrible and evil and hurts people and confuses them and teaches them evil things. So when the people go over there, they think, oh no, these people worship that horrible god. But the god's actually nothing like that. It's more just pettiness between the gods.
Okay. There's a part of me taking this into account. There's a part of me that wants to do something like completely different, where along the same lines, but completely different, where like the world itself is, maybe it has to do with this box, but the world itself is this new land, this new place that was created, has like its own deities, like totally different from the deities of the, I don't want to say civilized world, but the previously perceived civilized world. And these two groups don't know anything about each other. And when the veil is like broken and they find each other's civilizations, it's an immediate like shock to each side. And I like this idea of this humanitarian church or whatever sees how different this other,
so these people didn't believe that there was any other gods that existed in the world,
right?
And when they go over there, it's this shock of, oh wait, are there other powerful beings out there that are seemingly trying to say they're just as powerful as our god?
Yes, exactly.
And they don't want to stand for that,
right? So like
I like it.
There's this like clash between a humanitarian Salvation Army, and maybe even that Salvation Army turns into not so much a Salvation Army anymore.
It's more the army part.
Yeah. Like maybe it's like known as like the Great Collapse or whatever, where like this once strong humanitarian effort, this once strong church that helped and aided, turned into a problem when they met a different subset of people, like a group they never even knew existed, who didn't like want their help even.
I think at the time, I think it would be considered the Great Calling.
Yeah.
And everybody would think of it as this, oh, we have been called to a higher, like, it's this whole thing. And then it becomes, like, later on when people realize how horrible it was, it becomes the fall or whatever you call it.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Now, the question is why? Why does this humanitarian aid group, what causes them to immediately, I don't want to say go against their beliefs, but turn hostile? Are the people who lived in the new world afraid of these individuals? So like when they first get there, they immediately attack them? Is it, which, I mean, if that was the case, it leads them to believe that maybe there are tons of people who need help and changing and suffering, or, you know, that are suffering and need help over here. So they end up like doing a full scale for the humanitarian cause to rescue those who need rescuing on this new forsaken land. Do we want to go the route of greed and maybe one of the members of the church knows that the box is located there or whatever? That's like the myth, and they immediately go full greed and they just...
Well, okay. Those ideas are interesting. I like part of the first idea about how they believe, like, oh, these people are being held captive by this horrible... Like, they may even call them, like, the demon deities or something. But what I'm thinking is... Instead of, okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to put this into words.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I'm concerned about is we need like a dramatic event that makes this church kind of shift.
Yeah, so I kind of want it to be more like actual, like the story with the Native Americans. They didn't attack immediately. Like it wasn't like, oh, these people immediately hit our lands, let's attack them. There were some groups that were immediately aggressive. but not all of them were. And so I kind of want it to be first the group meets a nice group, and then another group wipes them out. And so they begin to believe, oh, like, because maybe they do like some religious ceremony for the dead. And so what happens is this evil group. So, okay, the nice group lands, meet this nice group, talk with them, deal with them, send notes back. Hey, we're talking with this group. Another group comes in and kills them. This original group, the nice group, comes back and sees this horrible disaster and is like, oh no, this is terrible. And so they begin to do funeral rites for these people. As they're doing funeral rites, new citizens arrive, and they see these people doing this, what they would consider completely unholy ritual. But for these people, that's just their funeral rites. That's just how they've always done it. It's how they know what to do, and they want to honor these people because they were their friends. But these people don't take it that way. They take it as, oh, you've killed them and now you're doing this horrible ritual. And that's how a war starts.
Okay. I want to... I like this. There's a part of me that wants, like... it'd be interesting if we're doing this kind of, like, funeral rites thing. So, the humanitarian group lands on this new world. They end up meeting a nice, I don't know if I want to say tribe, but nice group of people who live in this new world. And they end up trading and living together for how long would that be? Days,
I don't think it's
months?
long. I think it's like enough time to send a letter across the sea and then have the people come.
Okay, so I'm thinking, I think it has to be a pretty decent time. So maybe like a few months to a year, somewhere in that line, where like they're living in harmony with each other. And I'm thinking that the people who live here believe, since everyone is like their own spirit or whatever, everyone is their own, like everyone has this spirit inside of them, so that everybody's like partially equal. So like they accept and welcome them. And I like the idea of a new group sees these people kind of living together over these like months, years or months, or in close proximity and dealing and trading. And this other group believes that their spirits are evil spirits or whatever. So they end up attacking, like invading essentially, both these groups, the nice group and the humanitarian church. It's like a complete slaughter. Like they kill and destroy many of the individuals.
So I don't think they live together. I think it's two separate villages. So I think they only attack the village with the new people, with the humanitarian.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think they live very close and they're in constant proximity.
I don't because I want it to be that if someone lands there and looks all around, they're not going to see a mixture of both people's bodies. They're only going to see the humanitarian group.
Well, I think it's fine if they see a mixture of bodies, because it could mean that there was like a fight or a war or whatever. So you could have either or. It doesn't really matter. But I don't want them living together. I don't think that would really be a thing.
Yeah.
But in close proximity, where they're like trading, like within, maybe even hours of each other. Like they're very, very close proximity. And so this evil, this other group attacks and wipes out this group, which is kind of what you had. And so I'm thinking then the good New World people make their way to trade or even aid or whatever this group, and they find them all dead. And I'm thinking, I like the idea of like a funeral rite, but I think I want it to be a little bit more flushed out / animistic. And I think maybe even they have like the ability to like usher spirits on, like take them from their bodies and like usher them to the afterlife. Ooh. And so this other group literally sees them like ushering spirits out of people's bodies. Like they literally can watch as they like.
Okay, I want to say
send spirits.
I don't think everybody, like I don't think all followers of these gods, this other pantheon, can do that.
True. Absolutely.
I think there's a specific group called like the Death Guard, and the Death Guard they are like attuned to the god of death, and they are the ones who help ferry souls across.
Well, and so this is kind of, I like that you use the term ferry souls across. So what I think they do is, part of their ritual is they like send the spirits out across the ocean, because they previously believed there was nothing there. It was just an endless void, and the spirits would just pass through the ocean into the afterlife or whatever. And so the new colonists start seeing like, I don't know, like little boats or lanterns or things like that are like floating, and they end up following them because this must mean there's some sort of sign of life or something. Because they're looking for the place to, where where their old colonists landed, but they don't know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
And they come upon them doing these rites and sending out bodies and souls into the ocean, almost like they're literally covering it up and doing some sort of horrible barbaric ritual of removing spirits and souls from people and then sending bodies out into the abyss, into the ocean. And it immediately has a negative repercussion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Do you think the new group that arrives, do they just immediately attack?
100%.
Fight them?
I think they see this and they're like, they've slaughtered everybody, to arms. They just begin a slaughter on those people. Yeah, and maybe there's even a language barrier. And like the people who had lived here had like learned to talk to them. And so even if they had time, nobody would be able to communicate. Like they would be yelling at each other with no hope of.
Yeah, and what I see coming from this is they kill a member of these like Death Watchers, or people who are like, they kill a bunch of people, but it's not the entire nice tribe, obviously, but they kill a huge amount. And this evil group, I don't want to say evil, but the different animist group, they go to the tribe that has just been attacked, and they're like, see, we told you that these people are evil. And they start rallying the tribes behind. We told you they would double cross you.
100%. Yeah, I love this idea.
They come from the spirit realm or whatever. They come from a realm that because they have no idea what's beyond the ocean. From all they know, they just sent their spirits out. They just send the spirits out over across the ocean to, different beyonds. So they can no longer trust them anymore because they have now attacked them, and who knows how many more are coming. And so they end up essentially banding together under this one big tribe, and they have an entire huge giant war with all the newcomers who who make their way over. Yes. And then the rest is history, where they just are slaughtering each other.
Yes, this is great.
And then obviously I also think there would be like groups on either side that are trying to like bridge the gap and be peaceful.
Totally.
There's, like humanitarian members of this church who are like, this needs to stop. And they go over and they aid the other side, and, like the animist side. And then there's groups from, like vice versa, where they're trying to aid and help each other, but it doesn't calm the tides.
Yeah, totally.
And tell me if you like this, but I also like the idea too of a huge disaster where the New World people, they build a bunch of boats and they sail out into the ocean to go fight them, like to stop this like flooding, so because they don't know what's beyond, so they just like sail out and they end up meeting a giant fleet, and like it's a disaster. I like that idea also too.
Yeah, I like that.
It's so sad.
It is.
So what happens then? What happens to this conflict? Does it continue? Is it done? Is it still going on? Like, do the animists fight them off? I think it's can't make it.
I think it's gotten to the point where there's enough people who can communicate between them and has like figured out how both people see the history, and they've talked to each other, and they're like, "Oh, you saw this as a slaughter. You saw this as a slaughter. We were both wrong. This is what actually happened," and we're able to corroborate stories together to figure out what's actually going on here.
Yeah, what's the deal? Like why is this actually happening and occurring? Mm-hmm. And end up solving it?
Yes. I do think it's a little too long. It takes a little too long to do it. And so a
then
lot of lives are lost.
Are there old world people living in the new world, or no?
Yeah.
You would see some like settlements or stuff, or
I think
whole nations?
I think this settlement. Yeah. Well, so I don't know. I don't think it's been long enough that there's like nations there yet. I think it's I think they're still all considered underneath the mother nation quotation marks. They're still under British rule.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why when I think of colonizers, I think of Britain. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Like they did it a lot.
No, they would never.
No. Although to be fair, a lot of nations did it.
That's true.
To
yes.
almost equal expanse.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would say equal. I would in no way say equal.
Close. Yeah, close.
I mean, Britain ruled the world at one point. Like, let's be honest.
No, sure.
No other place has had that kind of.
But I mean, you had, Dutch and Netherlands take over almost the entirety of Africa. So I mean,
yeah,
there's been a lot, but
yeah,
of colonizers.
But yeah, so I see them as still kind of these states under states. But I think they have. I think it got to the point where people have lived there for so long, like the conflict has been going on so long that people have come to both sides come to associate some of these places as this is our home. Like I've lived here my whole life.
Yeah. Do you see certain places where settlers can't go that are still?
I think there's holy sites for sure.
I'm talking more along the lines of like if you land on the western coast, like the nation there just will attack you on sight still.
Yes, I do think there are still some holdouts that are like, no, this is our land. We will kill you if you try to step on us.
Yeah, like the atrocities cannot be repaid or whatever too, like that kind of stuff.
Yes, they definitely still see it as you still owe us.
Yeah, I would definitely see that. And now here's my next question. Have any of the New World people made their way over to the Old World?
Very few. I think very few.
I would probably agree. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
But I do think I don't think it's impossible, but I think it has happened a little bit.
And do we still want this new world, this new continent to be mostly empty still? Like mostly covered in jungle or whatever?
No, I don't think the people are like against
I was thinking
development.
I was thinking since the box has been there so long, it's become so large that most of it is explored and unsettled, and the box is hidden somewhere in there still. But they have many, like obviously they have a lot of people still there, but like the borders that they've explored have not been much. Maybe there's even something that prevents them from going over there. Like a mountain range or maybe like the Great
I definitely think there's some places where it's harder to traverse, so people just don't do it.
There's a part of me that likes the idea of like a great chasm that they have to like build a bridge across or something and they haven't explored that far. Like like we've explored all of the lands up to the Great Chasm type thing, where like they have. And I'm not saying that the places they have explored is small by any means. I'm not saying like it's a tiny sliver or whatever, but I do like the idea of the area where the box is like unexplored because people still are looking for it, like the Fountain of Youth type thing, where it's like people are still trying to search and find where the heck it's at in the middle of some sort of jungle.
The Northern Passage.
Yeah. Or like the Great Divide or something like that, like where they just can't get across it, or they haven't tried to get across it, really.
Yeah, there's still like fairy tales and places they haven't explored where it's like, hey, it could exist. We have no idea at this point.
Yeah. I even like the idea of stories of like the spirits have opened up this chasm so that we don't cross it type thing. Because everything.
I definitely think some people.
Reason.
Yeah, I think some people still take everything as this has a religious context behind it.
Yeah, for sure. No, certainly.
Well, I think that'll do it for this episode.
I think so too. We ended up creating mostly a church and not very many gods, but hey.
Well, I don't know if we needed to create gods. I like what we created, and it's interesting.
No, me too. Yeah, I like it too. I just love the basic like colonizing trope of like colonizers come and take over a like Native American type thing. I like that trope for a fantasy, for any kind of setting really, but in particular fantasy settings.
Yeah. It's it and space are both very good for new frontier stories.
Yeah.
Like the modern really cowboy stories are fantasy.
Now, you know what I thought of? And yeah, when we first started talking about this, and this might throw a big wrench in everything. When we first started talking about this, you know where my mind went first?
Where'd it go?
Underwater and like Triton civilization.
Interesting. We might have to make an underwater civilization at some point.
Yeah, like this group tried to like conquer the depths, tried to like bring their humanitarian efforts to the depths or whatever. That was the first place my mind went, but I don't know how that would work. But that's the first place. So that's the first place my mind went because it's something different and new.
Yeah, I mean, I already have our plan for what we're talking about next week. I think after that, we might explore who this people group is.
Yeah, totally.
Because I do want to explore who this group, that the humanitarian group has just come to blows with. Who are they?
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Because I love making like tribal. I mean, I just love making old world, new world type stuff. It's just so interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's going to be it for this episode. This is episode... let me check my notes. What episode is this?
Is it 49?
50.
50? The big 5-0.
Yeah, this is episode 50.
Aren't we supposed to do something special for 50?
Nope. 52.
Too late now.
52. It's episode 52.
Oh, 52.
Because that's exactly that's how many weeks are in a year, I believe. I'm gonna have to recheck that now.
Yeah, I'm almost certain, like 99.9% sure.
I'm looking it up right now because I want to know.
Because how awkward would it be? We'd have to cut that, you know.
We would leave it in. Yeah, 52.1.
52.1. Yeah. Maybe we have to do it at 53 because that one is finally caught up.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, so we got to figure. Yeah, I think you and I have to really figure out like what are we doing?
I already know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you already know?
We're doing a dance. Yeah, we're doing a dance party, a podcast dance party.
What are you smoking?
I don't know. I've lost it. You got to end it, man.
You have lost it. You just gotta get out of here. Run.
How would you even do a dance party?
You
podcast?
wouldn't. You can't. It's not possible.
Boo, boo, boo.
No. Okay. This is falling into madness at this point. Thank you for listening to episode 50 of Dungeoneered. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed 50 episodes of our show. If you listen to us on any podcasting app where you can write a rating and review, please do so. It really helps the show. And remember, you can always write to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you if you have any ideas for like lukewarm opens or just anything you want to bring up to us. Love to read it.
Or your favorite recipe for chicken soup. I'm down for that too.
Yeah, always love a good chicken soup for the soul.
It's true.
And always remember,
I was gonna say, you better not forget
to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye.
Okay.